doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
It's Americans just like you for 250 years that raise their right hand to defend the Constitution, put something greater than themselves at the forefront of their own lives, and we salute you for that.
Straight up ambush. Pretty awesome.
That's what America can do.
I see why you want to get back into it.
Yes, sir.
It's clean. No, there's no puke in there. I didn't even pull my mask off this time. So the rest of the world, you're going to get 250 more years of this whoop ass.
有人说美国无法接受中国科技的创新和领先，有可能会抵不过就抢，得不到就毁。您如何看待中美科技领域的竞争？
这段时间中国的科技创新不断突破了人们的想象，从当年的两弹一星到神舟、嫦娥，再到5G、量子计算，还有你说到的 DeepSeek， 一代代中国人的奋斗从未止步，中国的科技强国之路越走越宽。当然，这条道路并非一片坦途，无论是航天科技还是芯片制造，外部施加的无理打压从未停歇过。但哪里有封锁，哪里就有突围；哪里有打压，哪里就有创新。暴风雨最猛烈的地方，恰恰是哪吒闹海，一飞冲天的舞台。中国有句古诗说得好：“青山遮不住，毕竟东流去。”小院高墙是挡不住创新思维的，透过锻炼，最终将孤立自己。
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today on this hump day, as they say. Today's theme is Reclaiming the Republic. That's what we're working on. I want to say hello to the True in the chat. You're cleared hot. Wow. I think we got like a whole bunch of posts way before the show even started today. That's fantastic. Love it. Really appreciate that. Check out whatfinger.com. Put them in your daily scan after cdm.press. Put CDM in your daily scan 3 times a day. Check everything we're putting out. We're really ramping up the content. We are a newswire globally. We have information coming in all night long, all day long. It's a fire hose, I'm telling you. And the crew is worn out, but we have our nuclear boost, so we're good. So we'll talk about that later. Hell of a show today to reclaim the Republic. I've got Roger Stone in the second hour. We're going to go in depth into a lot of things. He just busted a Cuban spy, the attacks on Lindsay Halligan, the Epstein disclosures, New York City, a whole bunch of stuff to talk about with the Stone man in the Stone Zone. Not really the Stone Zone. That's his show. But Stone is in the house, second hour at 11. And first hour, I've got Yifa Segal from Tel Aviv to give us the Israeli perspective on what's going on the ground in Israel with the Gaza war. You saw in the cold open a fire in the Serbian parliament, right outside the Serbian parliament, where a bunch of ammunition was cooking off. We're going to have a renewed focus on the Balkans. We've had a little bit of a downtime on the Balkan.press just because our editor has been indisposed, put it that way. So we're going to be ramping that back up soon, and we'll probably be doing some reporting from the Balkans soon. I'll be in Beirut later in the week. By the way, tomorrow and Friday will be a rerun, the best of the SCIF, because I'll be traveling and I'm at a conference in Beirut, and we will be tied up and won't be able to produce a show. So we'll run something Thursday, Friday. We'll be back Monday live, but the Georgia show will be live tonight at 7. I'll be there. And then Sunday, I'll be on the Georgia show at 2 p.m. Eastern as well with Bill Quinn. Always fantastic there. And we stream on Gettr, which we get a lot of views on Gettr, weirdly enough. Gettr is kind of the Bannon Truth Social, if you will, but we do get a lot of views on Gettr. And we also stream on X across multiple channels. We're on podcast anywhere, any podcast provider. You can find the SCIF. We are on YouTube. We load the show afterwards, and we're on Rumble, of course. Also, please sign up for our Rumble channel, CDM1, subscribe. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need to grow those numbers desperately to get the numbers up. We're being throttled on Rumble, and YouTube, we lost tens of thousands of followers back in the day before they came after us hard, but we're back. As Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, we're back. And so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just look for CDM. You'll find the logo and subscribe. You also saw an interesting clip in the cold open with Russia launching and testing an ICBM, mobile ICBM. Obviously, that's a message being sent. Putin always likes to say, don't forget we have nuclear weapons. So interestingly enough, I got a comment from Super Buff Shaft. Rumble is throttling you. They're supposed to be on our side. Yeah, they're supposed to be, but they're not totally. They've been reducing our followers. It happened a year ago, and we complained really hard to them, and they started allowing us to grow again. But we didn't grow for like a year. We grew daily for a year, and then they started throttling us again about 2 months ago. So we haven't grown in 2 months, but we're all over them. So, yeah, Rumble has some big sponsors that and contributors and owners that may not like some of the stuff we're saying. So just an important safety tip there. So put pressure on Rumble, put pressure on YouTube. We need free speech. Free speech is it, because free media is the way forward to save the nation, guys. This is the way forward. I got Yifa Segal coming on here in the second segment, direct from Tel Aviv. And I have Roger Stone in the second hour. Let's do the mission brief. Today is October 22nd. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. Will the Budapest summit happen? Is there a war inside the White House? I would say yes. There is a tug of war going on. We'll dig into that and explain what's happening when we get some time this morning. Drug war gone hot in Venezuela. This is a big one, and we're going to be all over it. We may even go down to Curacao. So much travel to do, guys. So much reporting to do. So many places to go. Not enough time. Not enough money. Sign up for our no-ad subscriptions. Okay, we really need your support. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. The best way is just pay the $100, get it out of the way, and you get access to all of our content with no ads. It's fantastic. We get a lot of good response on it. A lot of people don't like ads, but we got to serve ads to make money, guys. This isn't a charity. We are here. We have to survive. We have lots of expenses in what we're doing. My.cdm.press. My.cdm.press for our audio audience is where you can sign up. Pay the $100, get it out of the way, and you can flip around to all the CDM channels once you log into the network, the paywall, the soft paywall, and you get access to everything. No ads will pop up on our 13 digital sites. So please check that out. And let's get back to the mission brief. Amazon Web Services outage yesterday. That impacted a lot of people. I saw it myself. But we're not on AWS, thank goodness. We have a special host provider, and we've been very happy with them. They've done a good job. Georgia election error rate is 100 and something. I don't even know the number. Thousands of times higher than it should be on the elections with the machines. Of course they are, because they're hacked and they're compromised and they're vulnerable. Everybody knows this. It's just, we're going through the Dominion name change, but the Dominion CEO came out, the new one said, same team, same mission, different name. So go figure. Don't fall for that crap, by the way. And Connecticut goes after homeschool. What is it with the Marxists? They know they need the kids. They've got the public education system infiltrated and controlled and compromised, and now they don't want you to be able to teach your kids at home. This is the globalist agenda, folks. We got to fight back against this. Got to, have to, must. So we'll be right back. Stay with us on the SCIF. I've got Yifa Segal coming up direct from Tel Aviv, and then we'll dig into all these issues, and then I've got Roger Stone in the second hour.
Ask a question about the nicotine pouches?
Yes.
Does it melt in your mouth, or do you have to spit it out later?
You can spit it out, you can swallow it, or you just savor it. I mean, you throw it in like you would a dip of tobacco.
Okay.
But you just let it sit there, and then it suffuses your nervous system with life-giving nicotine. And it really does feel like the hand of God is massaging you.
But does it feel like the high of smoking a cigarette?
It's simultaneously, if you can imagine the Zen paradox, higher alertness accompanied by deep relaxation.
Wow.
So you really are, it's a Zen experience. You're like cat-like in your readiness, but you're fully
And how long does it last?
I always have one going. Sometimes if things are, if I need it, I'll put another one in. So I've got 18 milligrams of nicotine, but that gives me an unfair advantage.
You're banging 18 milligrams? Woo. That's impressive.
I don't like to, because everybody else kind of recedes into the background and I become this kind of colossus when I do that, and I feel guilty about it. Hubris is inevitable at that point. So I usually keep it to one.
I mean, I could use a new addiction.
Oh, yes.
What's the gateway drug level? What would you prescribe?
This sits between caffeine
We
and
sell
cocaine.
a 3 milligram, but there's a transition, like all great addictions. Like, it's not instant. You do vomit at first, but then your body acclimates.
Wait is finally over. My towels are back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And that's not all. Check out our My Pillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, now only $29.88. And how about our limited edition premium My Pillows, made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, made exclusively for you to thank you for all your support. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for $39.98, My Pillow bed sheets only $29.88, and our limited edition My Pillow Queens $17.98 and Kings only $19.98. Quantities won't last long, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I've got Yifa Segal in the green room. I'm going to bring her in. And how you doing, Yifa? Thanks for coming on this morning.
Hi, Todd. Good to see you again. How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you. So first, how's the child? How's the baby doing?
Well, they're the twins.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Two boys.
You're busy.
I'm busy and happy and exhausted. All the above.
I bet. So you always have good insight as to what's happening on the ground in Israel. We have the situation in Gaza, the peace deal. There's still some, I guess, fighting going on. Can you give us from the ground what's happening in that area?
Yes, of course. Well, first of all, we got the 20 living hostages back last week. This was a momentous day here in Israel. The celebrations, people dancing in the streets. It was truly a joyous day. But I think in a very bizarre, very Israeli-like way, it's it can be both very, very joyous and also very sad. All at the same time. So, I mean, we all knew while we were dancing in the streets that, the ceasefire is probably just temporary. And we were waiting to see what kind of violations would come from Hamas. We were sure they will try to play games, just didn't know yet which games. And as we are seeing now, we haven't received all the bodies of our deceased hostages, unfortunately. There are families still waiting to bury their loved ones to close this horrible chapter in their lives. And so is the entire Israeli society. I mean, we're all, kind of feeling like a big family in this. And this is something that is hurting all of us. More so, I mean, we see Hamas is trying to reestablish its power all throughout the Gaza Strip. We've seen public executions. I don't know if the general public, I haven't seen, the major networks showing these horrible videos coming out of Gaza. I mean, as we always say cynically, if it's not the Jews, it's not interesting. If it's not the Jews, it's not news. So unfortunately, I mean, it's tragic to see all these groups that have been trying to stand up to Hamas over these past 2 years are now paying a heavy price. We don't even know. Sometimes it's just a personal settling of scores, like gangs. Right. And trying to pin all kinds of cooperation with Israel. Most of these groups, by the way, did not cooperate with Israel. These are not supporters of Israel, just Gazans objecting to Hamas and the cynical use of their own population as human shields, stealing their humanitarian aid and all these other things that have been going on. So
just for our audience sake, you're saying that there's like internal conflict in Gaza where certain gangs are going after people and executing them and other things, right?
100%. Hamas's people are coming out after being in hiding for the duration of the war, coming out, arrests hundreds of people, violence in the streets, and public executions. We see public executions. Some of these people, we've heard their names, those of us who have been following the internal resistance of Gazans against Hamas, and unfortunately now we see a tragic images coming out of Gaza on a daily basis since the ceasefire begun. So I'm not very optimistic about the ceasefire, I'm afraid, because if Hamas was actually planning to lay down their arms, why would they go through so much trouble to reassert their position, their power, control over the streets of Gaza? It's not a good sign. If you're about to throw in the tower, it's not something that you are likely to do. So we're not very optimistic about the ceasefire. So I want to tell you two things. First of all, I think most Israelis, we know we paid a heavy price for the deal. There are so many terrorists that have been released, but I think the most important thing that was for the Israeli society was to get the hostages back. This was both a strategic problem for us. While they were keeping our hostages, it tied our hands in fighting, but also it was just a bleeding wound, like a never-ending bleeding wound in Israeli society. Second of all, we kept military presence in about 50% of the Gaza Strip, and if they don't abide by their side of the agreement, then we will not withdraw. I hope not. That's what everyone is saying. So it keeps us in place without them holding that threat over us of the hostages, at least the living hostages at this point.
Yeah.
So I think we're very happy about the deal, even though we knew from the get-go that they will find ways to lie, to violate, to breach. But at least we are in a better strategic position. And now it remains to be seen. I mean, there are so many difficult decisions to make. We'll see what the American administration does. I mean, we've seen some powerful statements coming out of the White House, but I think it's a problem. I mean, President Trump went through so much effort to try to bring, I don't know if peace, but at least some quiet to this part of the world for at least some time, and it lasted not even one day. So I think it will be hard for them, to completely kind of throw in the towel very fast. I trust that they understand who we're dealing with. I trust that they have, that they have Israel's back, at least to a certain extent. But it will be difficult. It will be a difficult diplomatic battle, and we might have to resume fighting at some point.
Well, thank you for that. Interesting. What about the external situation? You've got Iran is back in the headlines, and the Iron Dome. There's some talk that maybe they weren't as successful with some of those hypersonic ballistic missiles that really hit Tel Aviv hard. So those two questions, how are you dealing with that?
So we're tracking the Iran situation very, very, very closely. This is it troubles us tremendously. I think a part of the alliance that President Trump is trying to enhance is the alliance against the radical axis led by Iran, and I think that is going in the right direction. I hope we can see more normalization with Israel. We heard Indonesia. We know Saudi Arabia is waiting for the right moment. I think that will help put all of the region, all the relatively positive, let's say, actors in the region together in a better strategic position. Look, the Iranians are not going to give up their ideology. It's the same as Hamas. I mean, if your ideology, if your identity is death and destruction, if it's jihad, then it doesn't matter which financial sanctions or if the American president is angry at you, or if Israel has bombarded your cities for a bit. I mean, you'll resume that project and you'll try to get the upper hand. And we're now very concerned about intelligence coming in. We know that they're trying to find vulnerabilities of how to hit Israel or Israelis, maybe not here in Israel, maybe overseas, maybe embassies, maybe airplanes. We're not sure. I mean, we know that they tried before. Thank God we were able to stop them with our Mossad. We picked up intelligence in time to stop them. But we know that they are picking up those types of efforts, thinking it's some kind of a retaliation or maybe deterrence, or God knows what they're thinking. So we're very, very alert on that front.
There was some talk that that some of the Arab nations, some of the Gulf nations, if Hamas doesn't lay down their arms, that they would get involved in eradicating them from Gaza. What's your position on that? Do you think that's possible, or is it a good idea in your view?
Look, I mean, never say never, you know what I mean? But I don't see an Indonesian soldier risking his life trying to get Hamas to disarm, fighting around the Gaza Strip. I mean, the IDF was there for 2 years. It's hell on earth. All of their infrastructure, their tunnel, their booby traps, their cynical exploitation of children and civilians as human children. I don't see a Pakistani soldier or anyone really threatening, putting their lives at risk to fight Hamas on the ground. And the second problem here is that we know that some of these actors are actually pro-Hamas. I mean, if you send a Qatari or a Turkish force into Gaza, then I'm not sure they're fighting for the right side and at all. So I think one of the problems that we're facing diplomatically right now is the effort to try to keep the Qataris and especially the Turkish out of the ground in Gaza, because again, they cannot be trusted on that front. So as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, we've seen this for almost 80 years now. If we want to do something, we have to do it ourselves. And we can rely on other nations for diplomatic support, maybe financial support, maybe. Often not, by the way. But if we want to get the job done, we have to do it ourselves.
So you mentioned Turkey. That's a big deal because I think Erdogan has designs on the region, and he's trying to the humanitarian aid they're talking about in Gaza with Qatar and others, and also in Syria. I see tension in Syria between Turkey and Israel. What say you?
Look, we're concerned because we see a future maybe that the Shia axis with Iran is we were able to kind of take that threat level down significantly. So maybe now the future holds a significant threat from a radical Sunni axis led by Muslim Brotherhood, Turkey, Qatar, and others. And basically Syria, a Turkish presence in Syria means a Turkish presence potentially on the Israeli border. So currently the Americans are trying to keep the Turkish influence more to the north, understanding fully that if they are actually on the border with Israel, this is potentially a problem in the future, maybe not tomorrow, but in the upcoming next few years, God knows. So for us, it's a real concern. We don't want to see any new radical elements. We don't want to see a new axis of terror rising on our borders. And so we have many challenges ahead. I mean, we took that day, as I told you, to dance in the streets because we all knew very well it's just maybe it's one day off. That's the best we can do. So we just danced.
You got video of you dancing?
I don't have videos of me dancing. No, but thousands of people, other people. I can.
I've seen those. Yeah. So Syria, Golani in Damascus. Is he a threat or not? I'm still on the fence.
Everyone's on the fence. Look, we don't know exactly what is in his heart and mind. I mean, he faces many challenges himself. I mean, it's if you listen to the mainstream media, it looks like he's he has full control of the entire Syria, that his regime is stable. That's not true at all. I mean, his control is over maybe 20%, maybe depends on who you ask, but it's definitely not much more than that. He has a lot of opposition, even from within his own group. I mean, this guy survived, I think, already 5 or 6 attempts on his life just in the, just recently. So this is not stable at all. That's one issue. Second issue is, if I'm a smart jihadist and we have to start thinking like smart jihadists, then I'm thinking first, I'll get all the foreign funding and foreign aid and get the sanctions relieved and get everyone on my side so that I can rebuild Syria, establish my control, build an army, and then I can go back to doing, to pursuing my ideological dream of jihadism and so on and so forth. So we have to take that into account. That is a possibility. Maybe he changed, maybe not. We don't know we can't know that for sure. But our experience show that you have to be prepared for all kinds of contingencies, even if it's ones that you don't like and you don't want to think about. You have to prepare yourself for them, but also hope for the good. I mean, if a normalization opportunity comes along, as long as we stand and make sure that our interests are protected, we should pursue that. We should look into that because that's what we really want.
Next door in Lebanon, the Christians are under siege there. I'll actually be in Beirut next month or next week, or actually in 2 days. But what do you see happening in Lebanon? Is Hezbollah going to be disarmed? What do you think?
I don't see anyone disarming Hezbollah, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, I applaud the Lebanese society, the small majority of Lebanese society that finally stood up to Hezbollah, and they're finally making statements, but also trying to implement resolutions in their parliament and in their government to disarm Hezbollah. Hezbollah is very, very, very strong, and they're not going down so easily. I don't see it. I don't see it. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, even if they try and they help weaken Hezbollah and they help keep Hezbollah at bay to some extent, that's a huge difference. There's also a demographic issue. I mean, the Shiite community is expanding more rapidly than other communities. Within a few years, if not now, there will be a majority. And there is a chance of Hezbollah, even in a legitimate democratic, not that I see democracy happening, but even potentially democratically, they can be elected and be, the power in Lebanon in the next few years. So I don't know. I mean, we want friendship with the Lebanese people. I mean, we had friendship with the Lebanese people in the past, which is a rare commodity in the region. So, I'm optimistic, and I think we should lend them a hand as far as we're trying. We're active in South Lebanon every day, trying to take out threats, trying to see what we can do to even empower their efforts. So it remains to be seen.
Interesting. Last question. You were the chief of staff to the U.S. ambassador or the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Do you have thoughts or plans down the road once your boys are a little older, getting back into that game?
Diplomacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to tell you, I enjoy being on the outside as much as I enjoyed being on the inside. There are advantages and disadvantages to every part of the court that you play in. We'll see. I have to tell you, more than anything, I just love being here. This is home. Even if it's an important job like I had, thank God I had the opportunity. But it took me away from home, and that was a difficult thing.
Yifa Segal, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy mom. Take care.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks so much.
Bye.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained, and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy. You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right. You know that.
Excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're going to go through the stories after Roger Stone later in the show. He'll be here at the top of the hour. But I wanted to play Christian Gabe, one of our Eurobytes hosts, who did a solo hit a few days ago. And I thought it was really good. We got a lot of really good feedback. I just thought this audience should see it. So here we go. And then we'll do Roger at the top of the hour.
To this Eurobytes episode on the 12th of October 2025. Today is a bit of an experiment, given that my co-conspirators had dadding duties and Todd is traveling the world, getting you all the fantastic news, or sometimes worrisome news from CD Media. Rather than giving this episode a miss, I decided to try a solo episode, and I might very well be failing in that and never try it again. But well, let's try. So welcome to this, and it has been a week in which somewhat U.S. news has somewhat slowed down. Not the events weren't quite as surreal, but nonetheless, we should mention that it appears that President Donald Trump has successfully brokered a deal in Israel, and well, that we find a organized campaign against ICE enforcement, but by the standards of this podcast and of the last 5 years, lockdowns, assassination attempts on presidents, assassination attempts on successful assassinations on milquetoast conservatives, that is almost normal, sadly. Now, looking into Europe, and Europe has been all but normal, and obviously the two cornerstones of this podcast is reporting on Germany and the United Kingdom. Germany, because that's where all of us are from, and Austria, Lucas, yes, and United Kingdom is where I had been living for most of the last 15 years. Let's start with the United Kingdom before we dive into the madness that is Germany, and not that the madness that is called the United Kingdom, the UK. It's become kind of a meme just to call it the UK, spelled with a Y and a OOKAY. Now, there was the Tory party conference during the last week, and the Tory party, for the American viewers and listeners, I know you're very politically astute and knowledgeable, but just in case you're new to this podcast, is, well, what the Rhino Republicans, or the Republicans prior to MAGA, were. And, well, they had been governing for the last 14 years or so prior to Keir Starmer, the current Labour Prime Minister, coming into power. And, well, they also call themselves the Conservative Party, and they had been governing all but conservative. I mean, they oversaw a record number of migration, especially after the lockdown. So I think under Boris Johnson, what was called the Boris Bulge, more than 1 million migrants entered per year, and it has not been much less since. And under the Tories, something like 4 million non-Europeans during those 14 years have entered the country. Many more Europeans through the free movement of people of the European Union before the United Kingdom left the European Union. They had been running up a deficit, a budget deficit, like it's no one's business. The taxes reached the highest level. So, it's kind of a bit like the Republican Party. It says on the outside conservative, fiscally responsible, but if you actually look at it, it's all that. And now the Tory party has been out of power for about a year, and the current Labour government under Keir Starmer has been bumbling from one fiasco to the next, alienating the farmers, alienating the pensioners, alienating British Muslims, alienating British working class. Essentially, they've been alienating the entire country, and Keir Starmer has been the least popular prime minister in the history of polling. So the Tories, after having proven time and again, they were the party of lockdowns, they were the party of record migration, even more so than the Blair government before them. They had been overseeing massive censorship. They had been overseeing so much that is neither conservative nor libertarian nor anything they ever stood for. But now they're trying to reinvent themselves. And the woman who's the face of the future of the Tory/Conservative Party is Kemi Badenoch, a woman of Nigerian origin. Interesting enough, after the Tory foisted an unelected man of Indian origin as an unelected prime minister on the country, now the face of their party is a Nigerian woman who had been part of the last Tory cabinet, and she had been heralded. And it is interesting. The Tories must have paid a fantastic amount of money for various influencers on Twitter, because everywhere I'm seeing non-organic tweets about how great Kemi Badenoch is, how brilliant her rhetoric is. And amongst the things that she had been suggesting is, we will deport 150,000 illegals per year. Well, I mean, she was a minister in the Tory government, and not only did they not manage to deport a single person, well, not entirely true. They set up a deportation center in Rwanda, of all places. And I think during the Conservative tenure, they managed to deport one person there. And they still said, and in total, this facility had the capacity for 100 migrants to be deported. But they still thought, well, but if we deported 100 people there, the 30,000 people who are coming over the channel, I think this year it's going to be 60,000, the channel, like the part of the North Sea that separates Britain from France, about 60,000 people by the end of the year will have crossed that channel illegally. And the Tories thought, well, if we send 100 of them to Rwanda, that'll surely deter them. Well, go figure. Now, Mrs. Badenoch has pledged to deport 150,000 illegals per year. That doesn't even address all the legals, because they keep arriving at numbers of 1 million or so per year. So we'll see another year of almost record migration this year. So I think the net migration is another trick of the government, meaning, yes, a certain amount of Brits are going to move abroad, and say 250,000 Brits are going to move abroad, and 1 million Indians are going to move in, or not Indians, just 1 million foreigners will move in. Well, then that's just 750,000 net migration. So it isn't that bad, is it? So, but she is promising to deport 150,000 illegals, and very much she and the Tories and the right of center Reform Party are very much focusing on that legal migration, even though that is not by far the biggest problem. It is legal migration that sees 1 million or so people arriving in the country. But she has promised that, and oh my God, revolutionary, the Conservatives have been reborn. At the same time, in best conservative fashion, kind of remember the Republicans that had been probably even under Reagan, but certainly after Reagan, not been governing very conservatively. But you get a slightly lower tax rate than under the Democrats, and the Tories are pulling off a bit of a stunt like that. They said, under us, you will not need to pay stamp duty. Now, stamp duty is a price in the United Kingdom, depending where you live, of between 7.5% to 10% of the value of the house that you're buying. Because you're buying a house, you clearly must have money, and hence the government needs to stick its hands in your pockets once again after record levels of taxation and such. Well, you bought a house, we need even more money. So yeah. So much for the Tory party. It's been hailed by the right of centre and what would be the British version of the Rhine Republicans as a rebirth. And they, in all good faith, they said, we understood, we listened, we knew. I mean, like a party that for 14 years governed all but conservative, and suddenly they have on the road to Damascus, they suddenly understand, oh yeah, we really need to govern conservatively. That would be the right thing. So so much for the Tory party and Mrs. Badenoch. They're still celebrating themselves, and I don't have high hopes for them at the next election. I actually hope they will have a record number of low seats, or we will see the mass extinction of this party politically, because it's mainly the same people that just a year ago gave us record numbers of immigration, gave us record taxation. Suddenly they understood. They turned around. They're reborn, born again Tories, born again conservatives. Right. Okay. So much for the Tory party. I think, dear viewers and listeners, you can infer by what I'm telling you, I don't have high hopes for them becoming what they claim they will be. Meanwhile, and that's a sad event, in the city of Manchester, a man of Syrian origin who arrived here as a child by the name of Jihad, no, I'm not making this up, his first name is Jihad, attacked a synagogue in Manchester, stabbed a couple of people. He was shot by the police. The police accidentally shot 2 more people. The UK police hasn't been highly competent of late, but maybe it was a very chaotic situation. And well, that sad event, if that event wasn't sad enough, a former football player, or football, soccer by American terminology, by the name of Neville, Gary Neville, had a solo podcast. Everybody and their dog have a podcast these days. So this footballer filmed himself, this soccer player filmed himself on his way to work. And at the moment in the United Kingdom, there is another patriotic wave in terms of draping your flags everywhere. In the last episode with Todd, I explained it's almost like some sort of guerrilla flag hoisting everywhere, where, you know, it started in the city of Birmingham, where the city of Birmingham illuminated the Birmingham Town Hall for 1 week in the national colors of Pakistan. And when a bunch of British patriots hung up the Union Jack or the English St. George's flag, they were quickly removed by the city of Birmingham. I used to live in the city of Birmingham, and during my days, they couldn't even remove the rubbish, the trash, in time. Sometimes we had to wait for like 3 weeks for them to remove the rubbish, the trash. But yeah, they had enough manpower to hang down flags, but that sparked a movement in the entire country to hang up flags everywhere. I'd been to a great, slightly rundown, but still charming spa town in England a couple of weeks ago, Scarborough. Beautiful. You might know it from an old Beatles song. Are you going to Scarborough? Okay, we don't want to hear me singing, but yes. So it's that Scarborough. Beautiful town that has seen better days, but it's still charming. And there were St. George's flags draped everywhere on the roads. And I even saw the same in Scotland, where it's not the St. George's Cross, it's the Scottish Saltire. But even so, now Gary Neville took offense to flags hanging everywhere, and he blamed, after a man named Jihad killing a bunch of Jewish worshippers in the synagogue in Manchester. He said, and it is white men that are the biggest problem. It is white men that created this climate. In fact, it's where a man called Jihad would attack a mosque in Manchester. And you can't make it up. I mean, in the United States. Special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
In the United States, you've got Trump derangement syndrome, and here we have, well, all kind of derangement syndromes, denying reality and inverting reality, actually. So whatever certain parts of their leads, Mr. Neville surely lives a very privileged, very sheltered life, and he can afford living believing in the inversion of reality, whereas other people actually have to live in reality. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer a couple of weeks ago declared reform, Nigel Farage's populist party, which leaves much to be desired. I mean, in a lot of ways, they're still middle-class conservatives, but they're better than the actual conservatives that actually have that name in their party. But he was declared as the #1 enemy. And as Todd and I explained in the last episode, the Labour government is finally introducing Tony Blair's long-hatched plan of the digital IDs, which combined with digital bank central currency will and all the censorship laws in the United Kingdom will enable the government, at least in theory, to sanction citizens in a way that hitherto has not been possible, as in making your money not work in certain areas, making your money not work for certain purchases. Hey, do you need that extra bit of meat? Nope, you've exhausted your local meat consumption for this month. All of this possible. Or if you have a couple of naughty tweets, that means you can travel this month or spend your money on air travel or train travel. So yeah, in the meantime, the UK Green Party, and it's actually growing and growing, believe it or not, they went full Mandani. I'm referring to the inept, candidate for the mayor of New York, and they're asking for the abolition of private landlords. So private people renting out apartments, renting out flats, because it should only be the state that rents out real estate and giving it to citizens based on need or based on loyalty to the actual party. So make of that what you want. The UK is not heading in a good direction. And as a final footnote for United Kingdom, you might have heard a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago now, a bunch of riots started in the summer in the city of Epping, where once more migrants had assaulted a young girl, actually a migrant that had come over illegally on a boat just 10 days before that. He assaulted a 14-year-old. And there were riots, well, some mostly peaceful protests, some riots, and the 3 men that have been involved have been sentenced for up to 2 years in prison, whereas the migrant who assaulted the 14-year-old has only been sentenced for 1 year. Make of that what you want. I know that Keir Starmer, always a glorious prime minister, always calls it a right-wing conspiracy when we call him two-tier Keir, but if that is not two-tier justice, then what is? In the meantime, the other basket case of Europe, Germany, has, well, depending where you sit, if you sit on the, I wouldn't even say the center right, sort of the normal, what would have been the normal just 10, 20 years, maybe 30 years ago, the AfD, the German far-right party, or center-right, depending where you sit, has constantly been the strongest party in polling with 26%. The governing CDU, the German quote-unquote conservative party that's probably left of most leftist rhinos and probably even most left Democrats, 24%. The Social Democrats, 14%. The Green Party, 12%. And 2 far-left parties at 5% and 11%. So when we are hearing, when folks on the American right are hearing, well, you know, Europe is moving to the right and everything will be good. That is true. Certainly the right-wing, right-of-center, quote-unquote far-right parties are gaining rapidly. But at the same time, far-left parties are gaining just as rapidly. And actually you're seeing that in the United States, in certain cities where a guy like Mandani would have been unthinkable only 10 years ago. As another example of basket case, Germany, the great and proud city of Hamburg. I grew up near Hamburg, and it's always been an amazing city. It not only had one of the largest ports in Europe, it had plenty of industry, had been a financial services hub in its own right, massive, one of the largest European Airbus plane factories. Well, truly an amazing, very prosperous city. But it seems to be hell-bent on putting an end to that prosperity. So they have the Hamburg referendum on the future, it's called. And yes, you guessed it, it's about climate and emission. And they're trying to fast-track the emission reduction. CO2 reduction by 70% by 2030, and by 2040%, and by 98% in 2040. In order to do that, interesting enough, under Merkel, we had seen various iterations of the green craze that she introduced. So first, her main thing was switching off all nuclear power plants, because Fukushima, even though we don't have a power plant in Germany built on a fault line, you know, and we don't have any earthquakes worth mentioning, but no, all German nuclear reactors needed to be switched off. And they were in Hamburg replaced by one of Europe's and the world's most modern coal-fired power plants that opened in 2015, and worked well, had efficiency levels probably unmatched in the world, but they switched it off only years later because suddenly the anti-nuclear scare was replaced by the climate scare, the CO2 craze. CO2 reduction craze, and I think they switched it off in 2021. They're going to demolish it, and you know, Hamburg is still has industry, as I mentioned. It still has a massive harbor. So wind energy and solar cells, especially in that part of Germany, which is rainier than the more continental south. That's not going to cut it. And so the city of Hamburg is hell-bent on becoming more CO2 friendly, and as a major port city, it was very popular. It is still very popular to be visited by cruise ships, but now they're banning cruise ships because of all the emissions they bring. Yes, they bring plenty of money into that port city, but yes, too many emissions. And we're gonna see once again the proud, wonderful city shooting itself in the knee, in the foot by this green craze. And to add insult to injury, they're now thinking about universal basic income. The city of Hamburg is a really interesting case. A lot of Hamburg's middle class has moved to the outer areas, suburbia and exurbia. You've got the very rich in there. You've got sort of the disconnected laptop class, a lot of bullshit government jobs and generally disconnected IT jobs, disconnected from reality IT jobs in Hamburg. And I mean, I work myself in IT, but it's much easier to ignore physical reality if you work in the virtual world of bits and bytes than when you actually work in the real world of iron foundries, copper smelters, aluminium smelters, and what have you. And so we've got old money in Hamburg. We've got somewhat new money in Hamburg, lots of bullshit jobs, lots of social workers, lots of students, and now lots of migrants who are on the take. And certainly for this new alliance of far left people on bullshit jobs and migrants, which is on the take disproportionately in Germany, vastly disproportionately on the take. Well, that seems to having universal basic income, which they're on right now anyways, seems to be an attractive proposition, but it drives away whatever industries, whatever companies you have in Hamburg. So I wish my former almost hometown, given that I grew up as a country bumpkin slightly outside of it, the best, but it's not looking good. And I think loads to talk about. Obviously, in this in Eurobyte, we prefer a more Socratic approach, a more discussion approach. But I felt for diehard fans, I found it important to check in with you guys, telling you what's happening in Germany and the United Kingdom. And for now, probably again ending on a slightly bleak sort of basket case note, with all the humorous aspects that are attached to it. But maybe next time we'll have some hopeful developments, professionalizing of sort of right-of-center parties. Definitely a tacit but steady growing turning towards Christianity, which is sort of a favorite topic of ours on that podcast. Anyways, and well...
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down, and even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer
Welcome back to the SCIF. Welcome back to the SCIF. Sorry about that. Waiting on Roger Stone to come in the green room. So as soon as he does, we'll bring him in. But let's talk about a few things. There's Roger. Just walked in. So I'll bring him on now. Looks like he's ready.
Let me make sure we have microphone. Yes.
We're good, Roger. I can hear you.
Good. Excellent.
Thank you for coming on last minute. I really appreciate it. But I've been watching what you're putting out on X. And first, tell me how you're a spy catcher now. Tell me about this Cuban spy you outed.
Well, it's interesting because she's seeking asylum, but I think we make the overwhelming case that she's Cuban intelligence and she's running a Cuban intelligence op in the United States. It's got pretty good pickup.
Yeah, definitely. But the big topic in the room is going after the deep state. You continue to do so. You've got prosecutors inside the DOJ that are doing their job and others that are not. What do you see is happening inside DOJ and this whole effort to rid ourselves of this administrative state?
Well, I remain optimistic. First of all, I think none of this, of course, would be possible without the meticulous declassification of all the crucial documents by Tulsi Gabbard. So now it's no longer, conjecture or investigative journalism or supposition. There just is no question whatsoever that Barack Obama and his inner circle made a willful effort, I would say a seditious conspiracy to undo the results of the 2016 election. And there's more than sufficient evidence to charge these people, not just with lying to Congress, which Comey has now been charged with in an unfortunate jurisdiction. I learned the hard way in Washington, D.C., that if you're in one of these jurisdictions, which sadly are most federal jurisdictions, the Constitution, the law, the rules, the facts, none of these things matter.
Yeah.
They don't matter. You get in front of a Biden or an Obama appointed judge, they're overtly critical. I'll give you a perfect example. In my case, the judge specifically prohibited me from arguing that I had been selectively prosecuted or that the motive of my prosecution was political, which is absurd. The judge also ruled that if a juror had served in the Biden administration, in the Obama administration or the Obama campaign, that was not a reason to dismiss them as a juror. And you had these radical leftists saying during jury selection, sure, I can be objective. These people hated my guts. And I could see in their eyes, they wouldn't look at you. So I would stare into them. I'd give them what we call the Sicilian death stare.
Yeah.
And that they would never look back at you because their minds were made up. It's interesting. I also have an sworn affidavit from one of the jurors that the judge visited the jury room during deliberations. That's both illegal and unconstitutional. She should be removed for that, but of course she won't be. It's a broken system, and the key here is, in my opinion, that this seditious conspiracy that begins in 2017 in the Oval Office continues through the entire Russian collusion hoax, the Mueller investigation, which has no legal predicate, no probable cause, the illegal FISA warrants. Once again, the rationale for them is completely fabricated, the Steele dossier. Comey lies about that. He says, no, we have a rich mosaic of evidence of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, when in fact he has none whatsoever. Yet another one of his lies before Congress. And then continues through the two impeachments. We now know the second impeachment wasn't really offensive, it was defensive. We had to cover up the crimes of Joe Biden and his family in Ukraine. and then continues through the 2020 elections. Very clear that the deep state is deeply concerned about Tulsi Gabbard's working group examining the electronic voting machines and their security and their manipulability. That's pretty clear to me. She is working on that. But then, of course, it continues into the coordinated lawfare in New York, in Georgia, in Nevada, in Arizona against Trump. And it culminates in the raid on Mar-a-Lago, which is a good thing, which means these indictments against Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Rice, Weissman, Mueller, McCabe, and so on, these indictments can be brought in the Southern District of Florida. And this trial can take place in Fort Pierce, Florida, where it's strange. You'll actually get an honest judge and you'll get a more balanced jury. And since the evidence against these criminals is overwhelming, I think they'll get convicted.
Wow, that would be a good thing. Concerning the judicial fraud in D.C., we have a case that's been sitting there for almost 3 years. They're not even putting it on the docket, which is amazing, with RFK, well, initially, but now it's another law firm. But how do you tackle the judicial corruption in D.C.? I mean, if the federal government takes it over, do they have any say? And like, or is that all DOJ, or how does that work? Do you know?
I'm not a lawyer, so it's hard for me to say. I don't know that the district. I don't know why the district has a prosecutor, for example. There's a U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. I'm not sure why we even need that. This is really very simple. Look, I have studied the Constitution. There's no place in the Constitution where it says the judicial branch is above the legislative branch. It does not say that. So we need to begin impeaching federal judges. We need to impeach them. We need to hold hearings. We need to subpoena them. And when they don't show up to testify, they need to be charged, just like every other citizen. Because as Letitia James famously said, no one is above the law. So you have to hope that you get an increase in the Republican margin in the House, and then it's time. I'll give you a perfect example. Judge Amy Berman Jackson, she's violating the constitutional rights of many of the people before her. She needs to be brought up to Congress to explain that. And frankly, articles of impeachment have already been drafted. Several members of Congress, I think, will put them forward. I just use her as an example. But Judge Sullivan, who sat on the Flynn case, he's not, so no one's above the law, including Judge Sullivan. So when he acts unconstitutionally, for example, when he appointed a special counsel in the Flynn case, after the Justice Department themselves moved to dismiss the case against Flynn and Sullivan refused, he should have been impeached right then and there. And then, by the way, you send the sergeant at arms to go get him and bring him up if he refuses. The legislative branch is not below the judicial branch, and these people are not kings, just judges.
What about the Epstein stuff? And I saw you posted some, I guess, disclosures on that. There's the book that just came out with Virginia Guthrie, or whatever. How do you say her last name?
Giuffre.
Yeah. What's going on with the Epstein stuff in your mind?
First of all, I interviewed Virginia Roberts Giuffre for 6 hours in 2 3-hour sessions. I've read all of her sworn testimony. She was one of the Epstein victims who did not settle with Epstein for millions of dollars, went forward with her lawsuit. Now we're supposed to believe that she committed suicide several months ago. Having spent time with her, I seriously doubt that. But if you'll just read her testimony and the testimony of other women who were victims, I'm absolutely positively for full disclosure. I want to know everybody who was on the island. I want to know everybody who was on the plane. I wrote about this very, very extensively in my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women. The longest chapter in the book is about Jeffrey Epstein. I think I established that he is, in fact, a soldier for hire. He's a blackmailer for hire. I believe he worked for the Mossad. I also believe, however, that he worked for our own CIA. I think he also worked for the Saudis. I think he was working for a number of intelligence agencies. But if you really want to get to who was on the island, I'm naming names. Let them sue me. Former Senator George Mitchell, the U.S. Majority Leader of the U.S. Senate, was on the island multiple times. Bill Clinton on the island. He denies it. He's lying. Let him take a lie detector test, or let him come before the House and testify on the island multiple times, according to the sworn testimony of Virginia Giuffre and others. Bill Richardson, the now deceased, the former governor, senator from New Mexico. Bill Gates, a big Democrat donor. So the Democrats jumping up and down and saying, we want full disclosure on Epstein. Yes, I agree, full disclosure. You're not going to find any Republicans there. Most certainly not Donald Trump. Trump was never on the island. Trump never visited the ranch in New Mexico. Trump was never in his New York townhome, which, by the way, is the single most expensive single family home in Manhattan. And Trump was, as I say in my book, The Clintons' War on Women, he was at his Palm Beach property one time. This is according to the sworn testimony of Virginia Giuffre, and it was for a charitable event in which it was a public event. She said he acted as a perfect gentleman and he left after about 15 minutes. So the idea that Trump is hiding something about Epstein, that he partied with Epstein, it's defamatory. And if I were the president and somebody said that, I'd sue them.
Wow. What about Lindsay Halligan? She's fighting hard, but now they're coming after her, try to get her removed from the case. Is that going to work?
Again, I'm not a lawyer. This boils down to the question of the president's authority. I believe, based on my understanding, is that when there is a vacancy for the U.S. attorney's position, that the president has the authority to appoint someone who can serve as an interim U.S. attorney for 120 days. The president fired Eric Siebert. Eric Siebert never disclosed that he had an extraordinary conflict of interest. I actually broke this story on my radio show, The Stone Zone, on 77 WABC in New York. Eric Siebert's father-in-law, the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, who was initially appointed by Trump, but because the Senate did not move on his appointment, the federal judges in that jurisdiction then appointed him U.S. attorney. There's the tip that he's a bad guy, because those judges are overwhelmingly Democrats appointed by Joe Biden or Barack Obama. But he never disclosed that his father-in-law, his wife's father, was the godfather to James Comey's daughter. He also never disclosed that his father-in-law, Richard Cullen, had represented Comey as an attorney and was actually actively involved in the illegal leaking of information that was detrimental to Donald Trump. So he never disclosed all those things. When the president learned them, they're an obvious conflict of interest. Remember what the law says: a conflict or the appearance of a conflict is enough to disqualify you. He should have recused himself. He didn't. Frankly, I have some people working on a bar complaint. Let me go explain that to the bar, because that's a real pain in the ass. The bar is people with liberals. They won't hold anybody responsible, but by their rules, they must have a public hearing. So he fired Eric Siebert, and then he filled the position with Lindsay Halligan, who's constantly denigrated as an insurance lawyer. That's not true. She was a partner in a very large law firm where she headed their civil litigation department, has a lot of experience with juries. So now Comey, who can't deal with the substance of the charges because he's epically guilty. He lied under oath multiple times. His testimony is contradicted by his own Confederates, Andrew McCabe and this other character, Richmond, who leaked at his direction. So he lied about that. It's not the least of which he lied about. So he's trying to end the prosecution by questioning the authority of Lindsay Halligan. Here's the problem. I would not be shocked to see the trial court judge, who's a radical activist judge appointed by Biden, rule incorrectly on that. Then you would have to appeal it to the Court of Appeals in the Eastern District, all liberals. They'll rule wrong on it.
Yeah.
And then you'll end up before the U.S. Supreme Court, where I think you'll get a proper ruling. We've seen this over and over again on the question, for example, about the deportation of dangerous illegals or the use of the National Guard. Trial court judges who are noted leftists, totally politically biased and mostly unqualified, rule to block the president's executive authority. They either get overruled at the appeals court level or they get overruled by the Supreme Court. It's the same thing here. So this judge who's sitting on the Comey case and the Letitia James case is a total partisan hack, unqualified for the judgeship. I'll give you a perfect example. As I say, I was not entitled to argue. I could not argue. I was prohibited by the judge from arguing that I had been selectively prosecuted or that the motive of my prosecution was political. Will the judge order James Comey to have the same restrictions on his defense? I doubt it.
How does that work? I mean,
I was also gagged. I mean, the judge ruled that I could not defend myself in any forum whatsoever, a show like this or on social media or radio or television. I could not defend myself. I couldn't even say that I wasn't guilty because it might, quote, taint the jury pool. There's no body of law on this. You could not cite any previous ruling or precedent. It was an absurd ruling. It just meant to silence me. I appealed it to the D.C. Court of Appeals, who sat on my motion for 8 months while I sustained extraordinary damage from the Washington Post and CNN attacking me constantly as a Russian asset. And then a week before my trial, the appeals court ruled that my motion was not ripe for a decision because I had not first asked the judge who placed the gag order on me to remove it, which of course she never would have done. I'm going to enjoy her impeachment proceedings. They're coming.
Wow. That needs to happen. That needs to happen. Wow. That's you would think that would be removal evidence right there. I mean, how can judges restrict a defendant's defense? I mean,
well, this is the same. I mean, in my case, I was not allowed any defense. So, for example, the underlying premise of the charges against me was that the DNC had been hacked by the Russians on an online hack. I wanted to have Bill Binney, who was once the leading counter intelligence IT expert at the CIA, testify and produce forensic evidence I could have proved in my trial, because the FBI admitted in the pretrial motions they never inspected the computer servers at the DNC. I could have proved there was never any online hack by the Russians or anyone else. And then, as you know, the FBI, having admitted that they never examined the computer servers of the DNC relied entirely on a report from a company called CrowdStrike. The judge would not allow my defense attorneys to have that report. Mark Elias showed up in the courtroom and argued that it was proprietary information of the DNC. But we do know that the head of CrowdStrike's, a man named Sean Henry, who conveniently was a former deputy to Robert Mueller when he was the FBI director, testified under oath before the House Intelligence Committee that, in fact, his report had no proof whatsoever that the Russians hacked the DNC. That's why the judge didn't want me to have it. And then lastly, my lawyers asked for Robert Mueller's final unredacted report. So under the Constitution, a person who's charged is entitled to see all of the evidence against them. She refused. She said that she would review the report and give my attorneys the sections about it that were relevant to me, which is interesting because she didn't turn over page 178, which said definitively that Mueller had found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. And even if he had found that I was in touch with WikiLeaks, which he didn't, it wouldn't have been illegal under the First Amendment. But how could she have forgotten to give me that section of it? Because it completely undercut the government's case. In my case, Judge Amy Berman Jackson functioned as just another member of the prosecution.
Yeah, totally. Wow. That has to be dealt with. Judicial corruption is killing us. You mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, and there's been a lot of, I guess, talk about how the CIA and other intelligence agencies have maybe been lying to the president, and Tulsi has been bringing that to the president's attention, and hence that may have changed his mind on Ukraine. Do you have any insight on that?
I do think that she's among his very best appointments. I do think that that there are areas that the CIA would rather not poke into, particularly when it comes to the question of these electronic voting machines and their reliability and the ability to manipulate them, because I suspect that our own CIA has been using them to manipulate foreign elections for some time. I think, for example, that if you compare CIA Director John Radcliffe's report on John Brennan to the House Intelligence Committee report, you get a much, much, much deeper dive. No, the problem with Brennan's claims about the Steele dossier are not that they didn't measure up to the agency's, craft. It's that they were completely and totally fabricated. Why doesn't the report say that?
Yeah.
Because it is the shallow most interpretation of events. Now, yesterday, Jim Jordan, who I think is the House Judiciary Committee chairman, referred John Brennan to the Justice Department for prosecution for lying under oath, which I hope he'll be prosecuted. On the other hand, if he's prosecuted in D.C., the case will probably be dismissed by some corrupt judge like Richard Sullivan or anyone else. I'm not sure that there's a single non-political, unbiased judge in the District of Columbia.
Wow. Last question. New York City, what's going to happen there in the mayor race? You have a radio show. I'm sure you're up on it.
Zoran Mamdani is going to be easily elected mayor, even if Curtis Sliwa, who is the Republican candidate who I am supporting, withdrew. Mamdani would still win the race. Andrew Cuomo is completely and totally out of gas. He's old. He's tired. He brings nothing other than his desire to hold a public office. He can't campaign. He doesn't campaign because he's afraid of that viral moment in which somebody says to him, "Hey, you, my grandfather died in a nursing home because you put those COVID patients into it." He's definitely afraid of that. Or some woman say, "Hey, why did you grab that woman's ass? You're a sexual harasser." He's like Joe Biden. He's campaigning from his basement. He can't appear in public. He was destroyed in the debate, just destroyed. He has no ideas. He has no energy. He's running for office because he has to have a public office. He has no plan for New York. And this idea that Curtis Sliwa, who won the Republican primary, who's running with a full slate of candidates for the city council and for civil court judgeships, that he should drop out. No, Andrew Cuomo is the one who should drop out. Now, in all honesty, if you look at the polling in any depth, I don't think it matters. If Sliwa withdrew tomorrow, Mamdani would still beat Andrew Cuomo. Or if Andrew Cuomo withdrew tomorrow, my guess is Mamdani would probably beat Sliwa. Remember, Andrew Cuomo is the man who said, if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe in the right to life, you need to leave New York State. There is no room for you here. You cannot live here. So now you turn around and say, oh, Republicans should vote for him? Why? Why should they vote for him? He's completely out of gas. And he was doing all those things to kowtow to the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, which hates him almost as much as conservatives do.
Wow. Roger, tell us where people can find you, listen to you, get your stuff. It's all on fire, usually on X.
Sure. Look, you can find me every day at 8 p.m. Eastern by going to WABCradio.com and listening to the Stone Zone, which is my daily radio show 5 days a week. On Sundays, again, at WABCradio.com from 3 to 5 is the Roger Stone Show. And then, of course, you can always go to stonezone.com. That's my website for all things Roger Stone. I publish both videos, audio interviews, as well as print articles. And I have a Substack at stonecoldtruth.com for the most important stories. That's where my story exposing a Russian communist spy was published this morning and has gotten quite a bit of attention. So I invite you to go to all those places. And as always, it's great to be with you.
Roger, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it last minute. Take care.
Happy to be here.
All right, bye.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. Hope you enjoyed the show. Roger Stone and Yifa Segal, two of my favorite guests. Always love Roger. He's just always a wealth of information and really gives, we like to get to the real truth, and Roger definitely brings it. Had a comment from Amy who said that Connecticut really hates children. I completely agree with you. That was the mention of the homeschooling, which we'll get to in a second. But it reminded me of that scene in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when they have the children in cages. Anyway, that's probably dating me, but I want to bring up this and just give a shout out to one of our sponsors, mypillow.com. If you use promo code CDM at mypillow.com, you can get the best discounts. But if you're looking for the Christmas gift that nobody will get what it is, and nobody and whoever gets it will be extremely happy, try the mattress topper. I love this thing. I travel all over the world. I come back to my mattress topper. It's just like heaven. I call it a firm cloud sleep. It's like sleeping on a cloud, but you have firm support. And I really love it. It comes all wrapped up, and nobody will be able to guess what it is. Put it under the tree, wrap it, put it under the tree, and they'll be very, very, very happy. So just a gift idea. And spend some time on mypillow.com and check out all their other stuff, the clothing, the bedding, the linens, all of it. Check it out. And I think you'll be happy for Christmas gifts. Don't go to the big box retailers. Use promo code CDM at mypillow.com. And also, CDM Metals. We had an ad there for metals. A lot of interest in metals. They skyrocketed. They've sold off some now. Really, possibly a really good time to get in for the long term, because we think they'll be really important over the next decade So cdmmetals.com for our audio audience. We've had a lot of good response from Advisor Metals. Tell them we sent you if you call them directly, but if you go to cdmmetals.com, you can fill out the form and you can get in touch with them. Let's go through a few stories here. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to share that again. So we mentioned the other day, a top U.S. Army general is using ChatGPT to make military decisions. You can read this on armedforces.press. I won't go through it again, but this is the same ChatGPT and OpenAI with Sam Altman, whose board tried to fire him because he was doing bad things for humanity and is now going into porn and erotica on ChatGPT. So it's not cool, and it's a lot of nefarious behavior in our opinion. But this guy should be highlighted. Why is he commanding troops when he's using that service to make decisions? Just makes no sense. Another article on AFP, armedforces.press, is drug war goes hot. Great article by Commander Salamander on what's going on, in-depth information on the drug war and the attacks on the drug running submersibles. He makes a good argument that this is really needed, and it's not just fishing boats, and these are real drug runners. And so I found that really insightful. A lot of information there, but really great article by one of our great contributors, Commander Salamander, who also does the Pacific Sit Rep with me. And by the way, we need to do one of those soon, which we will. So on Tsarism.com, our Eastern European site that covers all of the former Soviet Union and surrounding areas, the former Tsarist Empire. We have reporters all over. Great article on the Budapest summit and the reasons behind it and why it may signal the end of the Ukraine war. We will see. Another one you should take a look at is on the Manhattan. Amazon Web Services had a big outage the last couple of days. One of my sites was not our sites at CDM, but one of the sites I use as a vendor site for a vendor was impacted. I couldn't get in and do business on another company's website. That's a vulnerability. We are not on AWS, just so you know. We have a very good host provider that's not part of that system, and we're very happy with them. Another article on the Georgia Record, our Georgia paper, georgiarecord.com. The error rate is over almost 200,000 times the legal limit in Georgia's electronic voting system. Go figure. One of the big states, there's something about Georgia, one of the big counties, Fulton County and et cetera, where they have to steal these elections. We need to get rid of these machines. There's no doubt about it. The name change on Dominion did nothing. The machines have to go, but really in-depth, good article on georgiarecord.com about exactly what's going on there. Now, last one I want to talk about, homeschooling in Connecticut. Connecticut really does hate children, Amy. And this is about how they're coming after, from a legislative standpoint, the ability to homeschool and harassing parents in a variety of ways. This has to be stopped because we have to be able to homeschool because that's the kryptonite to the matrix. If you homeschool your kids, it's kryptonite. So check out the Connecticut Sentinel, spelled with a C, ConnecticutSentinel.com, The Old Revolutionary Way. Really, really, really impactful paper in Connecticut. There's going to be a lot more coming from that. I had a call with the editor before he came on the show, had to jump off to do the show, but so much going on there, so much. We're the paper of record now in Connecticut for real news, and people are spreading the word, and it's really growing. And I'm so thankful and happy and appreciative of our team at the Connecticut Sentinel. Let me throw that up there in case you may not know what the paper is. ConnecticutSentinel.com, spelled with a C, CENTINAL.com. Just fantastic publication that we're really proud of. Wow, a lot today. Thank you so much for everything. As I said, the next 2 days will be best of. I'll be back live Monday, but on the SCIF, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday Eastern, but also on the Georgia show tonight at 7 and on 2 p.m. Sunday. I'll be live with Bill Quinn, even if I'm in Beirut. And we will be bringing you the heat on the Georgia show, what's happening there. Again, there's something about Georgia. It's why we started the show several years ago. And I think it originally was called the Georgia 2022 show. So you can see how long we've had the show. It's become the show of record in Georgia for political show, even though there's some imitations, but we are it. So check that out. And Really appreciate your listening to us today. Spread the word. Sign up for our social media. Sign up for our no ad subscriptions. If you haven't done it, please do it. We really need the financial support. It really, 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 really helps. Get the $100. It lasts for a year. You get no ads on any of the sites. When you can log in once, and then you can scroll around and to all the sites, and you don't get any ads popping up. It's people just absolutely love this. It's at my.cdm.press for our audio audience, my.cdm.press for our audio audience. Thank you very much. We'll see you Monday, and we'll see you tonight on the Georgia Show. Thank you at 7 p.m. Eastern.